On first down, they hand off to Marlon Mack. Huge hole, 50-yard line. He's at the 40, still going near sideline. He's at the 10. He's at the 5, and he will score. Touchdown, Marlon Mack. Touchdown, INDY. And again, it's picked off. It's Darius Leonard. Leonard with a second INT, and he's streaking down the near sideline. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's going to go. A pick six for the Maniac. Kenny Moore gets to Deshaun Watson. That's a sack for Kenny Moore. Kenny has a pick and now a sack in the game.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
With the 193rd pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts selected Robert Windsor, defensive tackle, Penn State. He was a guy that played both nose tackle, and then he ended up actually playing the three technique. He lost some weight, dropped some pounds, and played the three technique, dropped up to actually 30 pounds with Penn State. He's a guy that I think, he's had position flexibility. He's played both positions. Guy the Colts nabbed here in the fifth round. They add to their defensive line group, the interior defensive line, which they already had bolstered in free agency. Derek, what are your thoughts here on the Colts selecting Windsor with their fifth round selection?
Well, Zach Kiefer mentioned it very truthfully that, this would not be a Colts draft if there was not a defensive lineman picked in the draft. We all knew Chris Ballard was going to get somebody and would have preferred to have somebody else, but you can check on Twitter for that matter. But what we got here, Robert Windsor, a defensive tackle from Penn State, a guy who is a Rough Rider, a guy who really enjoys physical contact. He just enjoys beating the hell out of people on the offensive line. He's just a relentless chaser to the ball, and he just does anything and everything to disrupt the flow of the offensive line there in the middle, which, again, is something that could definitely be used. That's definitely something that you could use for first down packages for the NFL right now. So absolutely, he's got some good explosion and good quickness and power at the start of every play. Basically, he's a guy that's willing to play hurt and go hard. Just has the strength to win one-on-one because he just fights through everything. He's very shaky too. I think that I saw some of the film, and even when he's getting double teamed, he's just moving his body in so many ways that he just somehow gets away from blocks that way. But they do say with that, he does have the issue of getting stacked, which means he just doesn't have the best of balance. He tries to fight so hard to get through that sometimes he just ultimately loses balance or gets put on his butt by some other guys. He's just got to work on some technique there. Just has to get better with balance. But this is definitely a good fill-in piece on the defensive line. And I'm really excited to see Windsor grow with this team.
Mm-hmm. And he may not even be a guy, especially with how deep the defensive line interior is. He may not be a guy that even makes the active roster. He might be a guy that sits on your practice squad for a while. Because you mentioned it, there's a lot of flaws in his game. He's not the longest guy, but he wins on effort, and he wins on just he has a pretty good motor. And so I think the Colts like that. They pick here, but he's a little bit undersized there. He's 6'5", 287. So, I would say the worst trait for him is definitely his length, and he's just raw in some other areas. But it's just beefing up that defensive interior. Again, we know that Chris Ballard loves his offensive and defensive lines, and so this pick is not surprising to me that the Colts go here in the fifth round, pick up another defensive tackle, because, Sheldon Day, for example, a guy that you brought in, you only signed him to a one-year deal. So maybe this is a guy that you feel like if you don't re-sign Day next year can kind of fill that type of role. sitting there, wherever Sheldon Day lines up, whether it's nose tackle or 3 technique. And it seems like this guy Windsor can kind of do both. He's had experience playing in both of those positions, and so overall, I think this is just a solid depth pick here. I'd probably just give it a solid B-. I mean, it's nothing that's spectacular, nothing that stands out. Again, I may have gone a different direction here. I feel like there were other players on the board that probably had a better chance of making your roster.
Mhm.
But, overall, it's a solid piece. I mean, it's a 5th-round pick, so it's not like you're wasting a 3rd, 4th-round pick on him. What would you give him, Derek, this grade for Windsor?
Yeah, I'm giving this a C+ here. I just felt like at that particular moment we could have gotten something a little bit more, and at a better position than what we could have gotten there. I see the upside to wanting somebody like that on the defensive line, but again, there was just other positions that I could have mentioned that you needed better people at instead of going for a defensive tackle there.
Mm-hmm. But who knows? Maybe Windsor will defy all odds. Maybe he'll make the 53-man roster and will be proved completely wrong.
Yep.
But as it stands right now, not huge on this pick. Don't hate this pick by any means because, again, injuries happen in the NFL, especially along the offensive and defensive lines. So it's always good to have good depth there. But that's kind of our take here on Robert Windsor, the most recent defensive tackle taken by the Indianapolis Colts. What do you guys think of Robert Windsor? Do you think it's a good pick? Do you think it's kind of like you're not sure like we are, or do you think it's a terrible pick? Let us know in the comments below. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks, guys. Go Colts.